Live on YouTube. Hello, world. This is Through a Therapist's Eyes. I'm your primary host, I guess, Chris Gazdick. We are sitting here in March. Ooh, the trees are blooming in our area. We got the pollen falling down. It's been an interesting spring. This is episode 303, The Dangers of Numbing Out, Survivor Mode. We're going to talk about the thing that people talk about when they withdraw, shut down, numb out. I think it's going to be kind of a cool show. Mr. John Pope is hanging out with us over there.
It's so nice to be with you.
And Miss Victoria Pendergrass hanging out as well. She's back from all the kiddos fine?
Yeah.
Oh, look at the face. Check out the face on YouTube.
Life is lifing.
Yeah, you're lifing?
Life is lifing, man. And I'm just trying to keep up.
So if you're catching us for the first time on this platform, we come on live about 6:15. We're a little late today. Before we turn my mics on for, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and whatnot. So we are going to cut the live show in a moment. Neil, you're probably ready to go whenever you are. You still typing? He's still typing. So
Neil is intrepid and exceptional.
Intrepid and exceptional on what accord? On what account?
Every accord.
Every
accord, yeah.
That's a lot of accords.
Yeah.
That is a lot of accords.
Civics. I think he would do very well in civics. I think he actually was one of the last people to be taught civics.
No, me. Mr. Fertini, my high school civics teacher.
Ooh, you got a name.
Okay, how many branches of government are there?
3.
Oh, wow.
Okay, all
you
right.
could do way better than that.
Okay.
How many agencies are a part of the executive branch? That'd be a better question.
Oh, yeah. How many?
Are part of the executive branch?
Yeah.
I don't know about all that.
I don't think we know that.
Can we do that?
I don't think anybody knows that.
Yeah, let me fire back at you there.
The Department of Botany. That's got to be one, right?
Well, I know they just pulled the
All right, we ready to go, Neil?
CDC guy.
All right, we got to go. We got to go. He is ready. Let's rock and roll. 3, 2, 1. Hello, this is Chris Gazdick coming to you with Through a Therapist's Eyes on March the 12th, 2023. 4?
You almost said 4.
5.
I did actually almost.
2025.
It is springtime in March of 24.
Is it?
That's crazy. The trees are blooming with their pollen, guys.
And the flowers are flowering.
Flowers.
So this is episode 303. We're going to be talking about the dangers of numbing out. So this is where you get insights from a panel of therapists in time in your car or home, but not the delivery of therapy services in any way.
Absolutely not.
We have Mr. John Pope hanging out with us.
So nice to be with you.
And Miss Pendergrass. Hi. All right, so we are asking you to subscribe. We haven't had at least a public view of a new YouTube member in a little while. Tell a family member, seriously, help us out. That's your job. We provide free content. We hope you enjoy our show, our time, delivering information about mental health and substance abuse and blowing up myths and stereotypes, and hopefully entertaining you a little bit.
Yeah.
But you got to hit the subscribe button. You got to get somebody to subscribe for us. John, how many stars?
Always 5 stars.
Has to be.
It has to be. And make sure you do that on the Apple Podcast and any other podcast servers that you use.
You don't want this young man coming for you.
No.
Also, buy our merch.
We have a pillow. I'm going to tell you what.
I was like, I might steal this and put this in my office or buy
No,
my own one.
don't do that. Don't do that.
Now, see, I'm
actually
looking at
quite
the
fun.
Illuminati. That's the thing, is the eye on top of the pyramid.
No.
Yeah, that would be that way
completely
if you
different.
have a hat. I'll tell you what, that puzzle's killing me. Matter of fact, you're going to be hanging out maybe soon next to at my house with the puzzle.
Yeah.
I might need your help,
Okay,
man.
I'll do it.
I'm telling you what,
Look.
it's brutal. It's getting to a brutal spot. I don't know what I'm going to do. All right, what else do we say? This is the human emotional experience, which we do endeavor to figure out together. Numbing out. Numbing out. What did you guys think when you got this?
I'm gonna say
topic?
that's. I just make myself laugh all the time.
+2.
It sounds no offense, John. It sounds like a boomer who's trying to be cool.
Oh wow! What does?
numbing
You
out.
saying numbing out?
Oh, is that not a cool term anymore?
Yeah, you're a Gen Xer.
First of all, let's be clear. I am not a boomer.
Which is why I said it sounds
Wait a minute,
I wish you
like-
could say hello, boomer.
Wait a minute. Is this Victoria? Are you saying is this not a current term?
I don't know.
Did I fail?
I don't know. I mean,
We don't say
I
numbing
get-
out in young clinician world? No.
No, right now they're
Oh
using
my
the term
gosh.
crashing out.
Crashing out?
Yeah,
Is the
crashing
same
out.
thing as numbing out?
No, it's actually not.
What is okay, no. Neil says no.
We'll talk about it later.
Okay. Something just happened here, guys. I don't know what the heck's going on, John.
I don't.
I don't know. No, seriously, I'm asking a serious question, Victoria. You're a
I mean,
clinician.
I know what you're implying.
But I'm asking.
However, I don't think I have ever used the term numbing out in any of my therapy sessions. with
Really?
people.
What
I
do
don't
you
recall.
say? Withdrawal, shutting down.
Yeah.
What is the way that we refer to this then? Seriously, I need
Shutting
to know.
down, withdrawing. I mean, okay, we might say numbing.
We used to
or a
call
numb
it-
feel, like I feel numb. Someone the other day said that they felt like they were drowning, but I don't know if I've ever
Tune in,
specifically
tune
used-
out,
Okay.
Yeah.
drop out,
Dissociating. I don't know.
derealization.
Yeah, derailing.
derailing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, these are all synonyms.
Yeah.
All
Right.
of these for the listening
Right.
audience. These are synonyms, meaning
And a couple of them are terms of art, are jargon from counseling.
well, absolutely
therapy.
right. They're definitely therapy words and
Mm-hmm.
Therapy
vernacular therapy words.
I know. I just love it because it is so true.
Yeah. Okay. I thank you,
There's
Victoria. I had No idea.
Shortcuts. Yeah.
I had no idea. That is absolutely fascinating. Do you think people do not understand what
No,
we
I mean,
mean when we say
no. I
numbing?
think people can
Infer it.
infer. Yeah.
Figure it out.
I don't think you're making it impossible.
By the way,
When
cool
somebody says that they feel numb, I take that quite literally in the sense that they're psychologically and emotionally
Like the little
Absolutely.
just
Like
not.
when your legs go numb when you sit on the toilet too long.
Yes.
Well, I was thinking if you sit on your legs too long.
Oh, yeah,
you
okay,
get
or
up.
that.
Yeah.
Hey,
Or
that's
that.
a wonderful place for electronic devices. By the way, the three questions we're asking you to think about or coming along with us here is in what ways do you tend to numb your emotions rather than face them? Okay. What word would we put there, Victoria, instead of numb?
Numb is fine there.
Numb is fine there.
Yes, I'm talking about the phrase numbing out. Those
Okay.
two words
Okay.
together.
Secondly, how do you differentiate between healthy coping and emotional avoidance? I guess that's the same synonym as numb. And then thirdly, what small steps can you take to reconnect with your emotions in a safe way? These are really important emotional skill sets to think about. You know, those three questions I think are really important for you to really think about yourself as we go through talking about, for instance, defining numbing out or other phrases. And I'm sure survivor mode is another old term,
Yeah.
frankly. Do you even know what I mean by that, Victoria?
Yeah.
Okay, because we've talked about it on the show before.
There's a great
Yeah.
song, "I Will Survive."
Oh, yeah.
From the night.
Yeah. But
That one?
that's totally different than survivor mode, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now I know it's different.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the Eye of the Tiger by Survivor.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Another musical reference.
Is that a Through a Therapist's Eyes, Eye of the Tiger? Is that what we're going for?
Oh, right. That was a Rocky movie. That was Rocky 3, I think.
That was all of them. Anyway, what do we mean by this? Whether we're talking about disassociating, whether we're talking about avoidance or withdrawing or shutting down, I'm using the term numbing out. What does this really constitute? You just said, Victoria, you had somebody just the other day kind of
Yeah,
in
said
this.
they felt like they used the word specifically. They felt like they were drowning. Chris is getting attacked by a fake tree behind
Something's on
him
my
or something.
on
I
my
don't-
mic and
I
it's
don't know what's
driving me
happening.
crazy.
Well,
I think I got it.
okay.
but
but-
yeah, okay. So basically, how I would define it is when you're basically you're doing like the bare minimum to get from day to day, and that's about it.
Okay.
Like you're doing what you need to do to like survive the next hour or the next 24 hours, and like we're just not necessarily addressing issues or anything like that. We're in survival mode.
Okay,
We're-
I'm going to challenge you a little bit on that.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I love it.
No,
Okay,
challenge me,
no,
please.
no. drowning is not a good analogy because that means you can't breathe and you are actually feel like you're going to die. I think numbing out might mean
Yeah, drowning
more
might not be the best.
isolating,
Yeah.
might be hibernating, just withdrawing, going into your little cave and
Wintering
So
over.
yeah,
Wintering
yeah,
over.
No, I want to disagree with you with that. I would agree with that. That yeah, maybe drowning isn't necessarily the best term for a synonym.
You know,
sorry.
there's a phrase
No,
that
no, you're fine.
there's a phrase that people use that I love to dispel. As a matter of fact, it's one of my first book, 4 points of my first book. You know, stop and reflect on your emotions. That I think I'm going to talk about that more today later on. But the phrase that drives me nuts, guys, is when people say, "Oh, yeah, I don't have emotions." You know, I think Neil has said that before. You know, and we laugh, and it's a fun phrase. It's almost, though, fun and funny because, you know, and Neil, you can just give me a head nod. You know that's a joke, right? You know that's not true, right? He smiles, throws his head back,
So
like,
it's
of course.
sardonic.
It's definitely sardonic. What's the definition of sardonic?
Sardonic is
Yeah, because you got me there with that one.
okay. Well, it's just using wit that would be kind
Sarcasm.
of sarcasm. There's
Sarcastic
another word
wit.
that I used. It was a word of a coin is sardistic.
Okay.
And so
You're not making these up.
no, I'm making sardistic up, but basically sardonic is a way of retorting, and you are using a little bit of irony when you say, "Well, we're
Don't have
teasing.
emotions.
Don't have emotions.
I'm just
you do have
cold."
emotions.
Because here's the deal. Every moment of every day, that anybody who's in therapy knows with me, I don't like those words and I very rarely use them.
Oh, so that's like
all,
when people
every-
say, "I don't feel pain."
Right. It's
Yeah, you do.
it's unrealistic thinking about your system. Every moment of every single day. Again, people that are in therapy with me or you know me, I don't like always, forever, no one, everyone, always, all those words. They're usually about 97% of the time unrealistic. But every moment of every day you are experiencing, because we are an emotional entity as much as we are a physical and biological thought.
You mean we're not just catatonic?
We're not just catatonic, John. Even when we're asleep, we're dreaming, and the emotional system
Right.
is absolutely at play. Why do you think you wake up when you're stressed? Your system's always actually engaged. Now, that becomes very confusing with this topic, numbing out, because you literally feel like, I don't think people are lying to me, Victoria, when they say, I really don't know what I'm feeling, and I don't think I'm feeling anything.
So yeah, I would agree that I think that people in that moment believe that what they're saying is true, right? Or like, okay, so one thing, yes, okay, if you can't necessarily identify the feeling, then yeah, you might not be able to know what you're feeling. But then the other side of it, of like, well, I don't think I'm feeling anything, I think that that's what it feels like. But then that's not really what's happening. Like they are feeling something, they just either can't pinpoint it and identify it, or they're not really sure how to label it. Like they don't know. They're like, okay, well, they can describe it, but then they don't know like the word to put with it.
Okay. It's
Yeah.
it's also like an underground river, basically.
Yeah.
It's going. It's happening.
It's there.
You just,
Underground.
and it's going to come out somewhere.
It does find a way out.
Yeah.
It always finds a way out. And usually this is why, one of the big things I advocate is stop and reflect on emotions. Real quick, I guess, because that's a point that we need to put in now, and I think I'm going to talk about it later on, like I said. I think, not objective about it, but I think it's pretty cool what I did with writing the volume 1, re-understanding your emotions and becoming your best self, because I looked at all of the chapters, and I pulled all of those chapters down into like commonalities, and I came up with four themes, four different areas that are really important. And if I'm correct in getting them right, it's valuing yourself, it's focus points, it's action points, and this fourth one is stopping and reflecting on emotions. Because if you don't purposely do that, you'll believe, as you described, Victoria, that I don't have them, or that I'm, that's where this whole numb thing comes from.
It's almost like CBT in some ways, is what you're doing, because those categories.
Right? What do you mean? Go further.
Well, no, I'm just hearing that what you were doing is A, B, C, D, or E.
Yeah.
And so
okay, the four categories.
Four
I guess.
categories.
Well, I'm heavily influenced by CBT, but I didn't
No,
do that
nothing.
on purpose.
No, I know
That
you
was
didn't
just-
do it
That
on
was just
purpose.
amazing to me
Yeah.
the way it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's brilliant.
Yeah, it was-
that's another way of understanding it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, I'm afraid I've been talking a lot, and I want to turn it over to you guys. But when we talk about survival mode, John, do you know where that comes from with Claudia Black and the family dynamics with alcoholism and whatnot?
no.
No. Okay.
No. Help me with it.
Do you remember we've talked about that, Victoria, when
we
we
have
talked about
talked
survivor
about
mode?
Maybe.
This is going to I'm sure this is going to come back to you guys
I'm
then.
sure we have, but
Okay. Well, here's where I learned survivor mode from a lady named Claudia Black.
That
and we
sounds
have
familiar.
a little bit of a theme.
I've heard of survival mode.
Well, how do you experience the survivor mode in specifically?
Well,
with a
let's say
focus
if you're dealing and you're in a family or a situation and you're a family member and you have someone that is in the throes of addiction and is not in recovery, and so basically what happens is you have emotional numbing, or a sense of avoidance going on in your life because you don't want to have to deal with just the emotional toll of living with somebody that has this, and so you check out. And so survivor mode is, I've got to preserve myself, I've got to preserve the children, I've got to...
over and over again.
And it just becomes ingrained in you. And so you can't even allow yourself to have deep emotions or feelings.
or feel them.
Or feel them.
Let them come to the
again.
surface.
It's the
Allow yourself to feel
it's
them.
the underground river again,
Right.
and it's going really fast. And so
Raging
there's a lot of
rapids.
under pressure, and so but somewhat it's going to have to gush up like an artesian well. In Florida, good example. Back in the 1920s, people started moving in and
To
Florida, and they would put a well down, and it would just gush. The water would just gush up, and all of that, because the water had come down through the center of the state from the north.
Wow.
Yeah,
Really?
and so you had this pressure. More and more people come in, and of course they tap more and more, and the water pressure goes down.
Okay.
But back in those days, you had that. It eventually has to come out. They still have it in Florida, and they have these crystal springs. Those are wonderful springs. They're healthy, and so they come out, and people. That's where the manatees come to keep warm, and that's
That's really, really cool stuff.
So I
Thank you
didn't mean
for
to go
that.
off on that, but it was just
it helps us to
it's
understand.
an analogy.
It helps us very much to understand the underwater river that we have going on if we don't allow it to come to the surface, which is one of the primary skills that I think we can talk about here and implement it where, I'm slow on the uptake and sometimes, and really only recently in my career, so, a 5 years ago, I started to think about things differently when I hear the metaphors. People will come to therapy, they want to get at the root of the problem, or they want to, they want to dig deep, they want to go deep into the ground, get it.
that means something.
It does, and I don't have any problem with that. Let me make no mistake. But this whole river, what we need to do is simply stop putting that pressure. We are exerting pressure. And so if we find the easier way, not that I'm looking for an easier way in therapy, but I like to redo those metaphors and suggest if you stop spending so much energy to suppress, compress, compartmentalize your emotional life, and you allow whatever it is to come to the surface, the important stuff will come. Because otherwise, what do we do if we're digging in the wrong space? We may miss the thing altogether
Right.
that's important. So it's like that beach ball when you're in a pool when a kid, right?
Right.
The game is to hold it underwater as long as you can and people mess with you. Very hard to hold that sucker
Right.
underwater. So if you just stop that, it comes to the
And it
surface,
goes
John,
poops.
and
Yeah.
you see what's there at the
Right.
surface. That's the antidote to numbing out.
So you have to drill the well in the right place and let it come out, or it comes out in a natural spring.
Well, I'm saying, to deal with the metaphor, it's not even drilling.
Uh-huh.
It's simply, not throwing dirt on the ground, not, making dams, not, putting pressure. We try to keep it from coming up through the ground in Florida. Nobody's drilling any wells. So it's a matter of just stop doing all of the things that we do to keep the underground river
Right.
underground. You have to create it takes great effort to keep it underground. We suppress things, we compartmentalize them. There's a lot going on. So yeah, I mean, it's just exciting to think about that. I used this as a concept because we have a little bit of a substance abuse theme this month, if you haven't told by now. These are family dynamics that happen with just avoiding emotion and suppressing things. But this also happens in, where else, guys? Sexual abuse families for sure. Chaotic, dramatic, domestic violence. Where
any kind of toxic environment.
Where
Work
there's
work environment.
toxic work environments.
Yeah.
yeah, talk about that.
We don't have a time.
I'm just joking.
John!
We know from firsthand experience,
We
right?
do
Yeah.
not. Dang.
Just
Now I'm
kidding,
gonna
we love
be.
Chris.
we're ribbing you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I even had a new person today that mentioned that she has some past, work stuff that we are going to have to dig into. And so, work is definitely,
So you're going to be digging up bones. huh?
yeah, work is
Yeah.
definitely can be
Yeah.
a breeding ground.
I think that for a lot of people, and who hasn't had a toxic work environment? I mean,
Yeah.
not here, but
Yes, not here. Not with.
This has
not
been
with
very
Chris.
good. This is a family.
So Carolyn Baker says, "Hey, Carolyn, great explanation, quite eye-opening." The survivor mode specifically comes from Claudia Black. You guys remember the story we've talked about before of her in the living room. I know you remember this, Victoria, where she's sitting on the couch with her boyfriend and at her parents' house who owned the bar next door. This doesn't ring a bell?
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
Not
okay.
yet.
Not yet. And the boyfriend and her sibling are watching TV, and some big burly guy slams open the door. And
I've heard this.
You've heard this?
Yes.
Outside of me?
No.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So he slams out. He's like, "Where's the bathroom at?" It's like, this is my living room. but-
Okay, I have heard it
right?
outside.
You have, yeah. And Claudia just points and directs the guy to go to the bathroom, and he comes back out and he slams the door closed and he leaves the house. And the boy, she just proceeds to start watching TV like this is normal. Meanwhile, the boyfriend's tripping out. He's freaking out. He's like, what? He's, And
That's
so
a-
I like to ask clients, like, who's in survivor mode? Hopefully you can tell pretty
But
clearly.
that's done in family. Actually, where I heard it first was in family systems.
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
really? In systems
Yeah.
theory.
Yeah, in systems theory.
Okay.
But it could have been Claudia Black,
I think it was her work that they
her
must
work,
have
yeah.
used, because I heard her tell that exact story live. She that's what she lived,
Yeah.
because it was a real story. So the boyfriend,
That's been around for some time.
it
I've heard
has,
those.
it has. The boyfriend is stunned and stuck and not able to move forward. So the advantage, the adaptive nature of numbing out allows you to be seemingly unaffected by turmoil, toxicity, stress, drama, at worst, life-threatening situations, so that you could just move on. And that's the advantage of numbing out. But there's great disadvantages that we're going to be
Good
talking about.
question. Could your cortisol levels be high even though you numb out? In other words,
Oh,
you-
wow.
yeah,
Love that.
Yeah, because I'm just. By the way, I'm going to do the other thing, because what we had talked about hormones
Right.
and stress. And,
Oh, yeah.
and
Tell Victoria.
Okay.
That's awesome. I tried. I got so excited. I tried to tell her.
Yeah, he told me that y'all created a new theory or something.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
listen to episode 302.
Yeah.
John and I created together a full new theory about addiction. That was wild.
Okay. Well,
Give me the cliff notes.
I.
Oh,
Go ahead.
What?
I'm not real good at it. I mean,
I'll
it's
just-
just
go
essentially
back and
is just
listen to
that
the episode.
that addiction is that some people are predisposed to it, not just because of genetics, but also because it changes one's, let's say the more you drink, for example, and you become
Right.
addicted, it raises your estrogen in both
Okay.
women and men. And that has some effects that could be, certainly in men, very detrimental. And it causes, and it also it raises cortisol levels.
Okay.
And so it kind of reinforces the addiction process.
And like literally when there are things that we don't understand in the field, that's my kind of go-to now. And I think that we've landed, interestingly, on access to personality disorders and whatnot. And last time we added, of course, we know menopause affects greatly, midlife women with hormones and men as well, slower, much slower, but tremendously by the time you're 50, 55, 60. And then addiction being another one.
Yeah,
like
addiction-
potentially the endocrine system with hormones is busting us up.
And that's when a lot of women, I don't want to say this, but if they're going to become alcoholics, do that during menopause or perimenopause.
It's a thing, man.
Right, it's a thing. It's
crazy.
And that doesn't excuse men from becoming alcoholics, obviously, as well, but it does affect men very negatively as well.
Yeah, which drives me crazy because I don't know that you can become an alcoholic. I mean, I understand what you're saying. We've talked about that before. We won't degenerate into that. But
yeah,
are you at birth or not?
An
Is the
alcoholic.
big debate. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you and I usually agree.
Well,
about
yeah,
that,
I
but-
think you do. I mean, you are at birth.
Yeah,
in that
or
sense.
you're not.
Or you're not.
So how do you create that in life? It's a big mystery to me.
Well, I think there's,
The hormones,
the hormones.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right, we need to move on. What are the effects? The psychological effects, the physiological effects. How does this really impact lives when you have people sitting in front of you that are so shut down, Victoria, that are so struggling with avoidance? Like what does that do with prolonged impact? I mean, everyone that experiences a really dramatic event in your life, you're probably going to have a period of what we used to call kind of shock, right? When I broke my arm, man, I was in shock. I couldn't, if you ever had this experience of like, I don't know if that just happened. It's almost like surreal. You dissociate. Car wrecks. Suddenly the world is still from obviously going through a car wreck. I'll never forget that as a kid when my car did 360 back down the hill and I just sat there like in silence with the radio still playing. Like,
Yeah.
did
yeah.
Is
that
that-
really happen?
That's
Were
happened
you-
to me too. It's
Were
crazy.
were you 13 years old and you hot wired your car?
No, man, I was a legal driver, John.
Yes.
I was legal. You're thinking of my kid. You're thinking of my kid. For real.
Yeah.
Love you, A. That's all I'm going to say. I got 2 kids with A in the first name. So that is numbing out. But what about what we're talking about is prolonged time with this, months after months, or even years, guys. What does that really do to people?
Breaks them down. Makes it so they don't have like coping skills to get them out of it.
Okay.
Right?
Go further with that. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, I mean, like, if you're so stuck in survival mode, then like you're not really going to be focused. Like, I don't know. It kind of, to me, it goes back to like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, if you're not having those like basic needs being met, then you can't like go further or address other things or work on other things.
Okay.
Am I?
Yeah, no, you're on point. I'm just letting you go.
So you're
Like,
not
I
at
was so
the,
quiet. I'm like, oh,
you're
am I
not
wrong?
at the top of the pyramid.
Yeah, well,
So-
and so it just seems like everything just seems so overwhelming that you feel like, okay, I'm just in survival mode. Like, I'm not even going to attempt to like work on these other things that are coming my
Is
way.
it possible that full-blown clinical anxiety presentations, which usually are genetic in nature, can be non-genetic in nature and look
Probably.
like that from this?
Yeah,
Yeah. That's what you're describing, right?
yeah.
Right, John, go a little further, John. What are you thinking?
Well, I was thinking of a good movie. It was Joe versus the Volcano with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, and a guy that was
Don't know it.
he was a worker drone, basically, and a schlub, and had no feature or anything of this sort, and he was a drudge basically, and he gets this opportunity to. It's a parable. Rent it, get
Okay.
it, okay. And so, going as far as anxiety is concerned, I think much of it is genetic. I think it's epigenetic as well. I think that for people that have PTSD, there is a sense that is not necessarily comes from a genetic aspect of anxiety, but it is an overlay into them, and it becomes ingrained in them, and so you would have the PTSD symptoms, and you would have the numbing that occurs, and the derealization, depersonalization that comes with that. I'm going.
No, you're absolutely rolling with it. I
Right.
mean, honestly, what's kind of amazing to me, I talk about in therapy a tale of two tapes. It's an overview of mental health. I've said many times, like a formulaic kind of thing. I think about how much of a percentage is what you're having a problem with, biological, genetic, exercise, and nutrition, but the other side being, right, like social and emotional realities, life experiences, life relationships, primary stress of the day, daily grind. Like those things combine together. And it is utterly amazing to me that something like chronic numbing out and what you guys are talking about can literally create, or certainly way worsen, clinical manifestations of full-blown depression or anxiety. And it's really a choice that you're kind of making that can be very different, right? Here's the thing I think about. So I write things down when I create different therapy moments, and it just happened yesterday, or actually today. Yesterday, maybe today. I can't remember, today or yesterday. Think about this. This was a real life therapy moment that'll be a chapter in a book probably at some point. That says something like, how did I put it? You can't accept other people unconditionally, or you can't accept other people as they are unless you accept yourself just as you are.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
And I think there's a lot of truth to that. Basically, you can't be kind to other people if you're not kind to yourself. You can't unconditionally love somebody if you don't love yourself. Right?
Right.
John
but I think
John just
people
glowed. What happened
But I
there,
think
John?
people try.
They do. What happened, John?
Well, it just occurs to me that let's say a mother or a father, but is very highly critical about the child's weight, for example, or this is not this child's not doing as well in school, and the basically that parent maybe unintentionally is projecting their own feelings of inadequacy onto their kiddo and causing that person to be anxious.
So
and
when I
worried.
said that, you lit up, though, because you're realizing or knew or got excited
Yeah.
about the fact that that little kid, because of those reasons, is in that state.
Right.
They don't accept themselves, so they can't accept others.
Exactly, because then they pass that on.
Right.
So you can pass the good stuff on.
Intergenerational
If you
trauma.
yeah, but you can pass the good stuff on too.
You can change it
You can
and
change it.
pass a different.
Okay.
That's what we're getting at.
That's right, and that is a key to. I'm going to go kind of deep on this logotherapy,
Okay.
which is existential therapy, which is you. It's being able to reach out and take that leap of faith to try to be kind and good to others, even if you don't necessarily feel it about yourself. You go and do it because it can make a difference in a person's life, and that other person will reflect back to you, and you'll go, wow,
Oh, wow.
I feel good.
Yeah. What was that?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that this is quintessentially the biggest factor with one of the big things in our entire field. Like this numbing out, this not dealing with emotions, this withdrawing and shutting down is so huge. And it's not, it's not just men that do this. This is absolutely women. In the pursue withdrawal stuff that we talk about, it's not just people that withdraw and shut down. Abandonment people do this too. We just throw a bunch of flack out in the air and not talk about what's real that we're disguising or hiding. Like we numb this shit out that we can't handle. And the more that we do that, the chronic nature that we do that, that is what limits us from being able to be kind or accept others.
You
And
can't,
then you have the
can't be
interaction.
kind and accepting to yourself.
You have to do that
Yeah.
first.
Right.
Unless you're fake it till you make it, like you just described, John, but you have to be able to do that first. And people wonder why, why do I feel so dead?
One of Adler says, "Fake it till you make it," too. But here's the question, and that is, if you look at other people's problems and what you perceive as them not meeting perfection to your standards, you're not looking at your own, and you're not able to be gracious to yourself and say, I can't, I have to let go, and that unforgiveness, I have to let go of that from myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of what I've done to myself, or what my parents did to me, or whatever.
So now you're talking about getting into a place of trying to let go and have grace for yourself and
Yeah.
relax, accept yourself.
Maybe
all
I'm
that.
not.
I think there's a lot there. No, you said there was a question, though. What did you say? Or you had a question and then went on to...
No, I just...
went on.
Yeah,
Where you
I'm
at,
old.
Victoria? What you thinking?
I'm 71.
Okay, John, that's not an excuse.
Okay.
You're good. We love you, brother.
Okay. I took my vitamin D.
Good.
Buddy.
Okay, we're sorry. Now
Where are you
I'm,
at? What are
I'm
you
taking
thinking?
Prevagen. Yeah.
What are you thinking, Victoria? Where you at? I'm just checking in with you.
Oh no, I'm actually just sitting back more today and listening to y'all. Than I mean, not to say I don't have experience in it. It's just that I like hearing y'all talk about it. I mean, I do think that a lot of times when it comes to women, it might, like you said, kind of show up differently than in men. Kind of like, I don't know. I think sometimes the one thing that popped into my head is like, when you become like a first time mom, and like.
Okay. Yeah. Scary.
And yeah, those first couple, and not to discount dads too, but like that first couple days and weeks is like, like you're just like, I would probably describe what I went through in survival mode. Like but I do get that how sometimes we do this thing where it's like, I get what you're saying about, I know I'm all over the place, about like taking care of yourself before, or you have to like be good with yourself before other people. And a lot of times, like when we become moms, or when, like that philosophy kind of gets thrown out the door for a long time.
It does.
Roughly 18 years. And
It does, yes.
and then, and so then you're like, you become empty nesters. And, we've talked before about how like sometimes empty nesting leads to like divorce and things because people just like aren't.
They haven't maintained.
Yeah, and they're just not the same. It's been all their energy has been put forth to this kid or kids, for the past 18 or years, and now it's like, what the heck am I doing? And
What's interesting, Victoria, if I can just jump in, is because in your life cycle and your status that you've shared about already, so I'm not breaking the news. I mean, obviously, how old is the little guy?
He'll be 3 in like 2 weeks.
Right. Remember, my mind, the survivor mode, or the survivor mode is what happens during the lost decade, which is your oldest kid being 4 to 14. You remember that? So you're like coming into, I'm listening to you and I'm like, because you're just coming into this.
Yeah, you are going to have to like keep me accountable to make sure it's not a lost decade for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
my own therapist
and
will
I
have
have-
to keep me.
Yes,
I have
leave that to them.
clients that are so busy that taking their kiddos back and forth to travel teams, sports, and things like that, they miss their seasons of their kids' lives, and they're missing a very important season of their own lives.
It's true. I think.
But it's not. I think it's just the thing that we think. Like I can see some people giving you pushback on that statement because they're like, well, I have to take care of my kid first before I take care of myself.
Oh,
and I tell people and I've probably said it here all the time, that if you can't adequately take care of yourself, then you can't adequately take care of your husband, and then you can't adequately together take care of your child. Which is not saying that you are responsible for taking care of your husband. We just mean like being there for like their emotional support, all those things. If you're not meeting.
Yeah,
your
you're
own
only
needs.
running on 2 cylinders.
Yeah.
You're not running on all 4 or all 8 or
Yeah.
6.
Like,
It's the theme today. When you're not really managing your emotions, when you're numbing out and withdrawing, then it has a real impact in your life. You cannot be available for others. You're detached.
You're burnt out.
100%.
You're burnt out. How many people just are in such great pain with this? Victoria, I want to push back a little bit when you say women and men. I mean, it is a great example of becoming a mom. But I would submit to you, any time, again, one of these permanency words, I don't know why that's happening today,
Yeah.
but because this is so common.
You're
But
just talking about big transitions.
anytime you're
Big
going
changes.
through big transitions, big life events, dramatic things in your life, this happens naturally. It's a
Yeah.
natural reality. You kind of check out.
Yeah. Like,
If you call it emotional shock, if you
yeah, you
want,
can call it different things.
right? But it's a natural process. The thing that happens in addiction families or in domestic violence families is it happens so often and it gets ingrained.
The old term for PTSD is shell shock.
That is
Yes.
an old, right?
Yeah, and it's the shock is you're numb. I was in an explosion, and
Like a real one?
Yeah,
boy.
I got blown up.
Oh, man.
So yeah,
Okay.
So
Glad to see you got put back together.
I know, man.
well,
Sort of,
I
anyway.
didn't
Sort of.
know. I was blown away like
Literally.
well, no damage outwardly to my limbs, but in internal organs. But I was shocked into them, and I was and literally blown like a rag doll.
Okay.
I was absolutely numb.
In your military service.
In my military service, I was on a training exercise, friendly fire. They had a big old explosion, and I got hit, and the explosion was so big, it moved me, and it could have moved my organs and all of that, and my head, and so I got a little head injury.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that is because absolutely numb. I didn't feel anything for about 4 or 5 hours.
And then it all came rushing in.
Yeah, and I hurt like hell.
Right.
I can imagine
but
so.
I was black and blue, covered.
gosh.
Yeah. So what I'm saying to you is that was a physiological shock for me.
Right.
Psychologically, it happens.
Same way.
Same way. People are shell shocked.
But in your-
They go days and days and days of constant being having live fire over them. They never have a physical injury, but they have the percussion and all of that, and it wears on them. They don't get any sleep or anything of this sort. You're growing up in an addictive household, in a
Day after day.
day after day after day after day. You are numb.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your emotional system naturally does that to protect you. Just like your natural system did that to protect you with physical pain.
Right. They didn't feel anything.
Yeah, did not. You're literally blown up, black and blue all over your body, although you said no outwardly effects.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it had
Well, I mean,
outwardly
bruises,
effects.
yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
lose an arm or a
I
leg.
looked like I was wearing camouflage. I turned
Yeah.
green, basically.
I mean,
green
that
and
is
blue.
wild.
So,
But when I broke my arm, I remember looking at my arm in a U shape, thinking that should probably really hurt.
That's not what it's supposed to be like right now.
my eye was cherry red. I blew, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful thing if you think about it. The way our bodies do that, emotionally and physically. Like, if it's too much, you just don't.
But you have to
handle it.
eventually come back, and
And
you
deal
have
with
to
it.
feel the pain.
Literally.
Otherwise, yeah.
Literally,
Because otherwise you're going to keep doing stuff that will not help you. You will not be able to process.
so that's a teaching moment. Eventually, you will have to come back to that and feel the pain. Go further with that.
Well, and I think
mean,
that
it
part
sucks.
it
It's bad
sucks. It's
news.
scary. The thing that I thought for me, I had some deficits, cognitive deficits for about 2 or 3 months, and
After that?
after that, yeah, and and coming back, it was difficult. I didn't have concentration. And then I start the idea that physical pain or those deficits, also psychologically, I got depressed a little bit.
Yeah.
I became overly anxious.
Right.
I developed PTSD. I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I would be pulling dirt off my head. And,
Right, from that incident.
That
from
wasn't
that
there.
incident that wasn't there. I got up and I protected my wife. Didn't remember anything, and she had to calm me down.
Yeah.
And that was painful to be able to talk about it. But the more I talked about it, the more I processed it, the more I was able to I didn't feel the pain as much. I was able to put the memories from my limbic system and put it inside my long-term memory.
Say this again. You talked about it, and what happened?
I processed it, and it went into the way you describe it. It goes into your frontal lobes, which deals with the
Thought
executive
process,
thought
abstract
process,
thinking.
abstract thinking. Because in the past, when I started having and re-experiencing everything, it'd go back into the limbic system. Well, once I started processing it and talking to a therapist and
Friends.
yeah,
Your wife, you
church,
said.
my wife, who I love, or loved. Anyway, I'd still love her. And it goes into my long-term memories,
Yeah.
and
And
then
it just
it's
hangs out there.
Yeah, but it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to follow up with that because somebody close to me recently, I really had a conversation with them about their service and their experience. Brother, I love that you did it, and I'm giving you props. I'm not going to say his name or how I know him, but he's close to me. And I've had a few Marines that are close to me. I've said on the show before. So it was one of them. And the challenge is that there was an experience where it was in a physical altercation, and it started playing those tapes in his head. Boy, that clicking worked well. And
It did.
It did, didn't it? And as that started to play, he was having these reactions again.
He was
And
reliving it.
he talked about it, John. He learned the lesson from not too long ago. Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's give a round of clicks,
Yay.
right? You know, that he did that. Because
But you get power over it. You gain agency over it.
Right. It doesn't control you. And you
Right.
don't have to do what your body does naturally, which is shutting down, withdrawing, and numbing out, as Victoria loves the term.
Yeah, you love numbing, right?
I do.
No? Yeah.
You do not. She does
She
not
doesn't.
love numbing out. This is
I
a
never
girl.
said it.
Hold on a minute.
Okay, though. I never said I didn't like it. I
This-
just said that I've never used it.
Exactly. This is a girl that does not numb out very
Yeah.
much.
No.
And I say that lovingly, dear. She's the opposite,
Yeah.
which is
That's-
also a problem for
This
you
is
and
a
I.
springs
You
out.
can thank stimulants for that. But when the period of time where I was not taking stimulants and I just pushed a baby out of my body, yeah, we might have been in survival mode for quite a bit of time.
How do we know when this is getting to be dangerous when you're in this pattern? What happens with people that do stay stuck in this? We've actually given some alternatives already to get out of this, the ways that we've talked about it. But what happens? How do we know when this becomes even more dangerous?
Maybe when you're not just endangering your life, but also endangering, like, obviously it's important if you're endangering your life, okay? But when you're also endangering others' lives, like potentially children who cannot protect themselves, like they're not,
What do you think happens, Victoria, with somebody who is the perpetrator of domestic violence?
the perpetrator.
The perpetrator. I would arguably suggest that they have been numbing out their entire lives.
Yeah.
Right?
So then, then you, at that point of view, you risk doing something that you can undo.
Right.
It's something that obviously you might regret.
Right.
Like, yeah, or harming someone else, harming yourself. Like,
Suicide is a real freaking thing. And military personnel particularly, John, we were talking before the live mics came on,
Right.
first responders live this way.
All the time, 24/7.
And it's dangerous.
Right.
There's suicide.
Well,
It's
you
real.
think of the level of substance abuse amongst first responders is just
profound.
profound,
Astronomical,
astronomical.
Yes. Lots and lots and lots of drinking.
And we honor them. They are our protectors. For society, we need to do better by them
Yes.
and
So
help
they-
them. But
Well,
but
yeah,
they
100%.
but they can often become themselves. Unfortunately, they have to watch it that they don't become perpetrators
It's
themselves.
a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Or
It
it
really
can be
is.
a slippery slope.
That's
so then,
the
I mean,
danger.
that's like when, I mean, it may not be to the same extent, but like, I don't know if this is just me as a millennial, but like a lot of times when people,
Okay, millennial.
All
When
right, just shoot it.
yeah,
Come on, go.
When people have had like a hard day at work or like a rough time, and they're like, oh my gosh, I just want to drink until I don't feel anything anymore, like.
Till they were numb.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I can see how.
And
like,
then here's the thing: really, we're in danger now. This is getting danger ground,
Yeah.
right? Because then you begin to have the belief that I really don't have emotions. This actually doesn't bother me anymore. I don't know. I just saw somebody beheaded on a traffic accident, and I'm okay. I'm having chicken wings with my buddy watching football 3
Yeah.
hours later. You begin to believe that, and I got to tell you. I can't tell you how many police officers, and I love the men and women. I support the blue. I'm honored to work with police officers, first responders, and military personnel. It's one of the biggest honors I have. But I have heard so many times in my check-ins with these folks, "How you doing this week? What's been going on?" I was like, "I'm fine. Nothing's. I'm
Right.
good."
but are you?
Not Victoria.
Had a-
But are you? Are you really?
Nurses.
Nursing,
Nurses.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Used to work with nurses a lot in the military as well, and they would say nothing of talking about, well, her uterus fell out and we had to stuff it back in, and just do that that's awful.
See, again, we're
Yeah.
in danger land here. This
Yeah,
is
it's
this
danger.
This is years and years, a long time of numbing out. And the fact of the matter is, police officers get divorced
At a high rate.
at a very high rate. Therapists, for that matter,
Yeah.
get a lot of hits. with that,
We get the vicarious.
right? If you're a therapist out there and you're not dealing with all that you're taking in, we used to call it burnout. That's what the fact is. Now we call it compassion fatigue. Hell, we've probably got some other
Yeah,
name by
all
now. I don't know.
euphemisms.
Yeah.
But
We're
it's
gonna
the
They
call
all
it
same
mean the
thing.
same thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
It does. It means the same thing. It means we're not dealing with our emotions. And I remember one of the big four of my book project was really like stop. And you have to stop and reflect on what it is that you're experiencing.
Self-care, very important for a therapist or for a first responder, and that is that they take the time to be able to decompress and recreate and do it in a way that is not necessarily tied to alcohol or any other substances.
Yeah. I think therapists' other downfall is that we try to be our own therapist.
Oh, yeah.
And so then that, like, I had a new person today, and they literally said, "It's not working, me being my own therapist." And I was like, yeah.
Right.
Like-
Good job. Right. I'm laughing at myself because honestly, it took me an exorbitant amount of time to get over that. It's like, I love Casey's statement back from the day, when Casey's like, "Oh, good therapists, the best therapists have a
their own
therapist."
therapist.
And it's totally true. Like
Yeah.
I hung on to that belief, John, like, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
fine. I don't need any of this for quite a while." Quite a while.
Yeah, that was something we were first taught when I took my mental health courses first in seminary, and pastoral counseling is what we did. And they would say everyone needs a therapist,
Yeah.
and
I think we're going to get to that point when we talk about futuristic thinking about mental health and substance abuse fields, that we will have, your family therapist, just like you have your family general practitioner, doctor.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of has touch tones with. I think that will be the case,
Yeah.
more and more as we as we go in. So how do we get out of this? What do we do? We've already mentioned some really good things, I think, but what do we do to kind of get out of this? What are the alternatives? I'm speaking the truth as much as I can about stop and reflect on emotions. That's kind of my big deal. But I mean, when we talk about self-care, I call that the cornerstone of mental health.
Oh, 100%.
That's what I call it. And because
Yeah.
it all starts with do you detach from the stress around you, take care of yourself with something fun, and then move back in with fluidity so that you can engage the world, but take
Yeah.
care of yourself. That's, a
Yeah.
funny way of putting self-care, but yeah.
Also, having a good support system, like having people who will help keep you accountable, will help call you out on things, like who you're comfortable, talking with people about, like having a good community / support system / village, whatever you want to call it, can be extremely helpful.
But Victoria, I don't want to be vulnerable with other people. I'm going to do it alone. I'll be fine. Why would I need to do that? How many times have we heard that crap?
Put your freaking pride aside, okay?
Well, I think in our culture too.
And that's the thing is, as we do talk about in the future of mental health, it's not a bad thing. I mean, I was literally working with a kid today on getting over, not like that, but getting over not asking for help.
Yeah.
It is okay. And so we've been we're working on this. It's an ongoing process, but we're working on this whole barriers that keep this person from asking for help.
And you know what, Victoria? I would even water that down and make that safer by this. I'm just listening.
I'm not telling. This is not how I talk to this kid.
Okay,
but.
obviously, but what I'm saying is I was listening to you and whatnot, and I think the point that I want to make there is just let somebody know. That's all. You don't have to ask for anything. You don't have to really even be quote unquote vulnerable. You can kind of make it out to be something that you're fine with, but that you're letting somebody know. Go to your neighbor. They might be shocked that you're talking, but if you simply just let them know, that gives you another human being that knows this. It honestly breaks my heart the many, many times that people have come to me in a therapy session and tell me about something, and I ask that question: Who else in this world
knows
what you just told me?
Yeah.
And when they say, no one, it just breaks my heart.
Okay, great example. This morning when I came to you and sat on your couch, and you were like, "Oh my gosh, what's wrong?"
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
all right.
And I was like, and I told you what's happening, and I wasn't looking for you to give me a fix.
Right.
I just kind of was like, I need to get this off my chest because I am about to scream in this office because I'm so frustrated, and no one else is here yet. And you came in and I bombarded you, and
Right.
but I wasn't,
And that was okay with me.
Yeah, and I wasn't, and you didn't try to give me a fix. You were just like, I understand, and it's part of being a homeowner, and blah blah blah, all these things, and I was like, yes, it just freaking sucks.
And you didn't appear weak. You didn't appear
Yeah,
vulnerable. Even really, honestly, you were just kind of, telling me, and
yeah.
obviously irritated and frustrated and concerned about something. But you just got to let people know. Don't be alone with what's in your head anymore.
Because honestly, the chances of you finding someone else who's also going through that same thing or has experienced that same thing in the
really
past
strong.
is very high. And so then you might be able to find somebody who can actually legitimately empathize with you because they have been there or they're currently going through
Part
it
of the
themselves.
human condition.
You know what?
Yeah.
Usually, John, exactly. Victoria, you're on point. I mean, people may not experience the exact thing you're describing, but I
Right.
can't tell you how many times I've gone to people just throwing crap off my chest to tell somebody, and they do something miraculous. If I say something to them, that gives them permission to share theirs with me.
Right.
And guess what we are from that point forward usually?
We're friends.
We're friends, Victoria. It opens up shared pain points.
We're passing that line of trust.
You're engaging in a community and doing things together, and it feels shockingly safe. It really does.
Yeah.
Because you're they're going to experience something like that, Victoria. Yeah. Yeah. How do we thrive? How do we move from this? These are some of the things we do to cope. These are some of the things that we do. How do we really thrive in life with this support system that we have?
Well, I'm wondering, is that some of my best memories was in my youth group, and
I love that.
Yeah,
I get that.
yeah, sharing. Yeah, and you share in that group.
Yeah, I just
and-
snorted. I'm with you. That's
yeah,
awesome.
no, we need to engage more.
Just took me back. That's all.
But I've also I have a couple of cancer survivors, and they're cancer thrivers, basically, and they have been in support groups and survivor groups, and they actually show a great deal of maturity. That's something similar akin to people that are well on the road to sobriety and in recovery.
I love the way that you just did that, because we have a little bit of a family dynamics and recovery theme this month, and the idea of not doing it alone together. We can do what we cannot do alone is what you find in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, which was what works best for most in recovery. And I'll tell you, some of the best experiences I've had where I've felt fulfilled and supported and encouraged are in, wait for it, groups. Neil knows the group that we're in with our mastermind group, like that has been so powerful and important to me for the last 7 years.
That's a long time.
It's a powerful thing when you make those kind of connections.
What kind of group is a mastermind group?
A mastermind is just a group of men learning about life, business,
Right,
together.
but you learned a lot about mental health. You've learned a lot about yourself, your spouses. You've learned about
Shared
experiences. It is the condition of being a human being.
Right.
And what a marvelous thing.
Isn't it? There's something happens with the synergistic interaction between people, even with tremendously hurtful pain points that are shared. Ben Higgins comes to my mind when he was on our show, and his work with Alone in Plain Sight. Shout out, Ben. I hope you're still listening. We need to have you back on. We need to connect, because I've sold many of his books, because it is absolutely on point when he talks about the shared pain points and the shared stories, and going back and forth and mixing it up in a way that just creates wonderful, beautiful synergy as a healing mechanism. Yeah.
People go to religious retreats sometimes, and they think of the contemplative retreats. That's another area where people can experience great healing. And so I like to share points of pain, and people are able to then heal and start sharing great points of joy.
Right. Absolutely. All right. It is moving into time for Victoria. You are having your first shrink wrap-up segment. This is where each host gives key takeaways and how to break free from the numbing behaviors and regaining emotional connection and understanding kind of what's going on with you. And so Neil gets to judge like who did a good job with your presentation, with the point that you made, and what happened. And
But we're supposed to keep it to like 2 sentences.
2 or 3, 4 sentences, Some people like John and I are verbose. But here goes. The shrink wrap-up. You ready?
Me first.
Okay, me second. This time.
Yeah, because I don't want y'all to steal what I'm going to say.
Okay.
Go! That's why John won last week.
I did. I cheated.
You didn't cheat. You just got to go first, and Neil chose you. Go ahead, Victoria.
Okay, so for me, it is that to not be afraid to reach out and talk to other people to share your experiences, because the likelihood of you finding someone who has similar experiences and is great, and to form that community from there.
I want to say that the payoff is that phrase that I created that will be a writing point for a chapter in the future. Most people want to be kind to others. Most people want to accept other people. We don't want to be judgmental. We don't want to be critical. We don't want to rip somebody up. We don't want to tear somebody down. But the fact of the matter is you got to turn that around, and you have to do that for yourself first. And being able to not numb and allow your emotions to be real for you and dealing with them allows you to be for and present and loving to others.
Oh, he's so articulate.
I think that was like 10
Okay,
sentences.
here we go. One more. All right. That
Oh,
is.
wait, Neil does it too? I thought he judged.
No, all right. If you feel like avoiding something and it's weighing on you, instead of running away or avoiding it or numbing out, you run towards it and you embrace it.
Love that.
I'm never going to win, am I?
You have some very stiff competition, Victoria, so it's going to be really, really
I need
hard.
to get better at how I phrase things.
I would say, wow, this one's actually tough because you guys actually this wasn't Chris's cop out. Like you said what I said. This was actually
Is that
hard.
what you said last time?
That's what he did. He said you
did.
took my endocrine thing. It's not fair. So,
Well, life isn't fair, Chris.
All right.
I think honestly, between the three different conversations, I'm trying to remember everything Chris said because he was very long.
sentences.
His like 5 sentences were like 20. I think in this case, I think Victoria's very short and sweet, but I think Chris actually hit a lot of the different pieces. So I'll give Chris. This will be yours this week.
Snaps.
But I think everyone was very important. So if you don't catch anything, last 3 minutes of the show,
I'm going to be
great
in
wrap up.
competition with everybody. That's.
Look,
All right, we're going to dance out of here and tell you, listen, I hope you're enjoying the content. We love working with you and talking with you. This is a very serious and real topic about numbing out and avoiding emotions, and it's a very common thing. I will repeat, if you're struggling with this, I suspect you are, I really hope that you've heard some of the things that can get you through because it can get dangerous, but even if it's just starting, you can now pay attention to it, and we hope that you have things that you can do alternatively so it doesn't really drive into your world. You're not stuck in survivor mode, and you don't get anywhere near some of the devastating realities that we talked about, because I know that you can do yourself wonderful favors, powerful thing to cope and handle your emotions. Guys, we'll see you next week.